Welcome to Fewer Things Better. This is the place for all of us who are big on goals and short on time. Together, we'll explore smart, simple ideas on how to retrain your brain and unlock your life. I'm your host, Kristin Graham. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 200. When I started this podcast 4 years ago, I had no idea there would be so much to share about our brains, bodies, habits, energy, plus finding out where real progress can happen in the middle of the messiness of real life. Spending all this time weekly at the intersection of science and behavior showed me something important. When we begin to better understand biology, psychology, and neuroscience, we can start to see more of the individual why behind all of the what. But the most impactful and fun piece for me has been this community, this study hall experiment. This podcast serves as a verbal scrapbook of conversations and debates, research and new research, and all those shared experiences and real-time experiments. The bottom line on top of this episode is that each of our brains is a unique map. The more we understand its patterns and pathways, the more we unlock our cognitive superpowers. So today's conversation is a roundup of themes that has kept resurfacing, both from the evolving world of science and the fields there, but also from the evolving conversations as we have all done more learning out loud. And the one thing I see over and over again is that overwhelm is real. When the brain is juggling too many inputs, too many open loops, and too many decisions, it shifts into protection mode. And that can show up like foggy thinking, indecision, and frequent procrastination. And that is not the same as being lazy. It is cognitive overload. When the executive function part of our brain becomes saturated, our performance and motivation is going to drop or stop. Not because we don't care, but because the system is simply flooded. And often we try to force action when we might be better served by unplugging for a few minutes or a few hours and finding a way to reboot ourselves. And quiet and stillness are the most underrated software updates that will help us do that rebooting. Very often, we get better by going slower. And being quiet and slower can help you notice the small signals that you might otherwise miss in this noisy world. If you keep hearing yourself say, "I'm so tired," that's not a flaw. It's a signal. Sleep, hydration, getting sunlight, movement, taking pauses, those are all biological inputs and important ones. A brain without fuel cannot perform, no matter how disciplined you think that you are. Another pattern is that motivation is unreliable. Friction, however, is constant. And how we respond to friction determines how quickly we burn through our energy battery. Behavioral science shows that when we reduce friction, our follow-up and our follow-through improves. No surprise there. Since resistance is inevitable, collecting cognitive tools becomes an essential part of maintenance for your own energy engine. And sometimes the friction we need to adjust to is our own excuses. Procrastination is clever and it wears many disguises, like perfectionism, over-researching, handling other people's problems, or my personal favorite, procrastination by productivity. Doing all the things that don't need to be done and avoiding the one that does. The brain would often rather feel busy than risk being brave. Busy keeps you safe. brave moves you forward. If you're not sure what tools are going to work best for you, just borrow some ideas from other people. Keep what sticks and lose what doesn't. Just allow yourself to experiment. And speaking of tools, one of the other most underrated ones is rest. And I mean true rest, not just sleep. Hustle and grit gets lots of PR out there, but true rest is how we sharpen the saw and keep ourselves going. Pay attention to how often that low battery light is flashing. That's a warning sign that's not going to disappear with more caffeine or just more grind. Another place to adjust our inputs is in the stories that are playing on repeat in the background of our mind. If you have old tapes that are constantly telling you you're lazy, you're bad at math, you're always forgetful, your brain believes it and it will go out searching for proof. So pay attention to those subtle subtitles. Once you hear them, you can begin to edit them, to replace them, and to delete them. And while we're talking about words, revisit how and when you find yourself saying yes and no. Each is an investment of time and energy. Invest wisely. And remember, you are allowed to change your mind. And back to the friction that we face daily, it is really easy to be distracted when technology is in our pocket. Research shows that simply having your phone within your line of sight reduces your cognitive capacity. Technology uses science to capture your attention. It's designed that way. It is simply doing its job and it is very good at it. If you do not manage your tech, it will manage you. All of these components feed into our own energy and capacity. And energy is biological long before it's ever motivational. If you really want to boost your energy, go back to the basics. No tech required. Move your body for a few minutes, even if it's just stretching. Step outside. I always told my kids, get air in your head. Go sit near a window. Grab a friend, go to a bustling coffee shop and just do some body doubling. These aren't hacks. They're switches that are within reach when motivation may not be. Sometimes clarity comes from having space or a change of scenery. Sometimes it comes from support. Sometimes from simply reducing the load. One of the first episodes I recorded was number 9, The Benefit of Being Boring. I had no idea how true that idea would become. I was just trying to get to 10 episodes. I had no idea that there would be 190 more. But what I found along the way is that was a very simple and elegant truth. Consistency is not flashy, but it works. Not because it's exciting, but because when you stop negotiating with yourself every day about whether or not you're going to do something, your brain relaxes. It doesn't have to chase. Removing decisions removes excuses. And another benefit of being boring, it's the antidote to perfectionism. When you're focusing on the basics, it's harder to overthink them. Yet when you show up in small, repeatable ways, an idea can quietly become a journey. A goal can become progress. So however this episode found its way to you, I'm so grateful that you're here. I consider this episode my love letter to the long game, one I didn't even know I was on. It's also a permission slip for anyone who is feeling behind. Find a step and take just that one. It doesn't matter which direction you ultimately go. It matters that you showed up on the road. And when you do, I'll see you there. For more Fewer Things Better, find us over on YouTube or join our newsletter at unlockthebrain.com/newsletter. See See you next time.